Hey, how you all doing? Hope you're well. So, when I was contemplating what topic I could discuss today, I was given the word habits. But then something happened in my 3D reality. And I understand now the links, bear with me. And I was triggered today. So I think we're going to touch on triggers and in terms of a response and how you respond and how that becomes a habit, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes, see how it flows. I'm holding one of my crystals if you're wondering what I'm doing. So, like I say, this morning I was triggered. So what do I mean by that? I responded. I was triggered. I was rah, if you know what I mean. Now, obviously, so spiritually, it is helpful to try and be an impartial observer, remain neutral as best you can. But at the end of the day, we're human. I'm human. I don't walk around on, with my feet not touching the floor, floating about. I'm human at the end of the day. Things trigger me. Things will make me go, not having that. I kind of discussed that a little bit of my personality in the Divine Feminine video. I do have that in me. I do get triggered, and that's normal, So, one, to think people on a spiritual path or a spiritual journey don't get triggered, they do. I'm here to say that's okay. It's normal. We're human. But, so I try not, to be honest, I do try not to let myself get triggered a lot these days. And it's not that nothing bothers me. It does. But I try and think, right, okay, how could I respond in a different way? Or why is that trigger trying to come into my energy field? What's it teaching me? So that's the crux of it, really. When you are triggered, okay, fine. Apologise if you need to. I grumped and swore and, did all those human LJ things, I think. But I have a habitual response for being put in that situation. I understand that. And obviously I've not learned from it, and I've still got some learning to do, and that's okay. I'm here to say, you know what, we all get triggered. I would never sit here and say otherwise. I have got so much work to do on myself still, and I completely recognise that. But I've done a lot. And I think it's important to recognise, I think I've written an article about that. It actually is important to recognise that, yeah, you might have a lot of work to do on yourself, but you've also done a lot. And the progress is, you've made progress, and that's good. So anyway, we digress. So yeah, I got triggered, and my response was a habitual response, being put in that situation. And I understand that, but I still did it. Why? And what's it teaching you? And that's what I want to get to today. I understand why I was given the word habit now. We might get onto habits in a different context as well, but for the moment, I'm going with because I was triggered, and I like to talk about things that are relevant for me, because one, I can only talk about my personal journey. My hope is that by me talking about mine, just might help somebody else, and little bits of things I've learned along the way. If I can pass anything on that might help somebody else, I'm happy with that. Anyway, so yeah, I was triggered. LJ came out and went rah. And that's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. It shows me I've still got work to do on myself. So I'm not going to tell you what the trigger was. But so for me now, I need to sit back and say, right, okay, what was it actually in that situation that really, really triggered me, that made me like go, nah. Why couldn't I remain an impartial observer? Why couldn't I remain neutral in that situation? Because there's always something in me. It's those triggers are put there for you to learn, about you. There's something in you. So therefore there's something in me that I need to look at, because at the end of the day, it's me that's been triggered. Yeah, that situation's going on, but I could have responded in a different way, and it's choice, and I chose not to. So yeah, I chose not to respond in a different way. It is choice, and that choice sometimes becomes a habit. And those habits are formed, through various things. I always say programs and things. I might do a video actually on programs and what I mean by a social program, or, it could be things you've learned in your family, just a repeated behaviour over time. So I know when I'm put in that situation that I am going to respond in that way. And yeah, I need to look at that. But that has become a habit for me. I will respond in that way because it has formed a habit in my behaviour. It's a behaviour pattern at the end of the day. And yeah, I might need to break that. But there's something in me that makes me respond in that way. Yeah, it's become a habit, but still, there's something in me that I need to look at. Because if there wasn't, I wouldn't have been triggered. So I just thought that was interesting that happened this morning, and I was given the word habit. So I kind of, in my head, they might not do in yours, but in my head that links. I understand that. So do you have triggers? Do you know what that is for you? And what are they teaching you? So if you're put in a certain situation, how do you respond? Are the situations where you're put in and you're going, it's a normal response. I'm not saying it's not, but on a spiritual path, I like to think that we look to the learning in situations. There's always learning from everything. And we choose whether we want to do the learning at the end of the day. I've obviously not learned that lesson, so it's going to repeat. I'm well aware of that. But can you identify any triggers? What is it that really gets to you, that really brings out a certain aspect of your personality or your ego? Or have a look at situations that either crop up today, this week, wherever, and you think, you know what, that's what you were talking about. I've responded like, or however, it might be. Another one for me, I can only talk about me personally. I'm can be ridiculously stubborn. It is a learned behaviour. I know where it's come from. I know who it's come from. If you're watching this, I know where it's come from. But it is still a learned behaviour. And sometimes being ridiculously stubborn, it doesn't help. And it's not the way to go in some situations. But when things trigger me, I'll go. And I'll be really, really stubborn, even if it's not going to help me. Because that's kind of a learnt behaviour. It's a habit that I've formed over time to a certain situation or a certain environment or certain people maybe. Some people will trigger me in a certain way. I understand that. I have done a lot of work on myself, and I always say I've got a lot of work to go. So just look to situations that may bring out a certain characteristic. Let's call it a characteristic that may bring a certain characteristic out of you. And so for me, yeah, I can reflect on what's happened today. That's a really important thing for me to do. I recognise that I was triggered in the first place. That's really important, actually. Can you actually recognise when you have been triggered? So look at, if you want to, you might not want to, look at things that potentially trigger you to react in a certain way. Look at why and what. So yeah, why? What is it teaching you about yourself? And how you could maybe try, and obviously I've still responded in that way. So I know how difficult it is. How can you try next time to respond differently? Remain a bit more impartial or a bit more neutral in that situation. There's so many ways that situation could have gone for me this morning, but I chose to go, no, not having it. Yeah. Human. It's the humanness of me, at the end of the day. We're all put in situations until we learn from them. And I understand that, more than most. And like I say, I tried to be good with triggers. There's a lot of things that would have triggered me in the past that don't trigger me now. Progress there. But obviously, there's still a few things, or maybe probably a lot of things that I could list that still trigger me. And one of them was today. But that's helped me. So look on the positive. That's helped me because I can obviously review my actions and I can talk to you guys about it. It's given me I don't know, topic for today. And it does link to habits. But let me think about habits now as well, because I was given the word habits this morning. When I was initially given the word habit, so I mean it's a different direction now, but still suppose habit. I was feeling that we'd be discussing about going on autopilot, which it does link to the triggers, because when you're triggered, if you're just having an automatic response, you're on autopilot. But let's use it not in the trigger context now. So, how often do you run on autopilot? And why does it matter? I mean, so for me, obviously, I can only talk about what, for me personally. My personal opinion is when you are running an autopilot and you're just going from one to the other and you're not really thinking about what it is you're actually doing, you're not actually being present in the moment. How often have you driven to somewhere and thought, I don't know how I've got here. I don't remember the drive. Yeah. You're running on obviously you're driving and you've driven on autopilot. That's what I mean. I hope you know what I mean by that. I don't mean that you don't actually remember the whole journey or but there's things that we do or we go about our day, everybody, and we'll just do it on autopilot. It came up in I did a personal message for somebody yesterday, and I touched upon it then. So in terms of, we're that programmed that we run through our day, we put ourselves in a structure, or so we run through our day to fit in the structure that we've put around ourselves. We put ourselves in a box and we respond by fitting ourselves into that structure that we've created for ourselves. And therefore then our response throughout the day a lot of the time is to run an autopilot. How do we break that, and what does it matter? So for me, it's all about being grounded and recognising the now moment. A lot of the time people are like worried about what's going to happen in the future, concerned about, something that's happened in the past. And they're all, they're valid. I'm not taking away from anyone's trauma or experience. Genuinely not. Your power is in the now moment. And it's all about bringing everything back to the now and not running on autopilot, grounding yourself into the now moment, aligning yourself, being present. It's all about being present. When you're thinking about the past or the future, your energy becomes scattered, in my opinion. Your energy becomes scattered. You're giving your power away to those situations. And you create in the now. So there's a lot of I'm not going into manifesting, it's not something I'm going to necessarily talk about in terms of how to manifest or anything like that. But you manifest in the now. Your power is in the now. So if you want to change something, you need to do it being very present in the now moment. But if you're running about on autopilot constantly, trying to do things for the people, fit into the box that you've built yourself, scheduling, fitting into your structure that you think is gonna that you think you need. And we all have routines, so it's not a criticism. I'm just trying to challenge perception. That's all. You're not present because you're running on autopilot. You're doing things exactly how they. And this is rich coming from me because I am a bit of a creature of habit sometimes. So I am aware how this sounds coming out of my mouth, especially if you know me. But it's something I genuinely need to look at. So anything that I genuinely need to look at, I'm happy to talk about. That's all. I'm not sitting here saying I've got all this right. I haven't. But you're giving your power away if you're thinking, past, future. If you want to change something in your life, or try at least, you need to be present, you need to be grounded, and you need to be in the now moment. And when you're running on autopilot, that's where I was going with the habits. It just becomes habit. So have you got things in your life that you do on habit? Why? Why do you do them? And if there's a valid reason, great, But if there's things that you could maybe just tweak or change or, do in a different order or just do things a little bit differently, free yourself up a little bit more time to do things that you want to do, then, it might be worth looking at for you. But definitely running on autopilot, that was the feeling I was getting. I'd be interested to know if anyone else feels like sometimes they're running, through the day on autopilot. Because we do. If we're, a lot of people, they get up, they do the same thing in the morning, they go to their employment, come home, have the same evening routine, repeat, repeat, repeat. And if you want to bring some new into your life, some new energy into your life, then that sometimes the energy becomes a bit stagnant. So it's just something that you might want to look at, you might not. It might not even make any sense to you whatsoever. And if it doesn't matter. Scroll on. I say that quite a lot, but I genuinely mean it. I can only talk about things that affect me, or that have affected me, or things that I've worked through, because hopefully they will help other people, and that's the aim at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm not sure whether that will make any sense. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Don't worry. There might be another topic that does make sense to you. But if it has come up for you this week, if triggers have come up, or maybe your structure. When I say structure, I mean like your structure of your life, your routines. If there's anything that you're thinking, well, maybe I could do that differently, then have a look at it. There might be something there for you to look at. All right. Take care. Bye.